Hey there, I'm a dad who games, and this is the continuation of Sims Homes of the 20th century. And today we're looking at a colonial revival from the 1910s. Now, I actually feel like I could talk a little bit about colonial times, not because I am from colonial times, although someone on Twitter mentioned something that is actually kind of funny, and that is that I am from the 1900s. We all are, if we were born anytime before 2000. So it just sounds kind of funny to say, I'm from the 1900s. But either way, my family loved colonial times. We would go all the time to places like Williamsburg, and of course Philadelphia was nearby. And when you live in this area and grow up, you learn about, Ben Franklin and George Washington and all those guys. And you learn about Philadelphia, but because it's so close, you think it's just local history. And it wasn't until I moved away that I realized, oh, wait a minute, that was like the beginning of our country was in Philadelphia. It used to be a capital. But in either case, my aunt had a colonial revival. But because I knew that they were all into colonial times, I was of the mind to think that a colonial revival, I didn't know that's what it was called. I thought it was an actual house from colonial times. But it's not. It's from the 1910s. Colonial times is, really, older than that. But it was just a style that emulated those really impressive old buildings. This house is exactly the same kind of house that my aunt had, so it took me no time at all to do the external portion of the house. I actually, before I started recording, made sure to check out what exact windows I wanted to use and the color scheme, because whenever I do the color schemes in these videos, I tend to cut them out just because I can take a long time deciding on what I want to do. I also cut out anytime. I always check the gallery image just to see. And actually, I found that I didn't completely center this build. I put it a little bit to the side. And the reason for that was so that when I take an image from the gallery, it's skewed. Because if you perfectly center the house and look at the gallery image, it's dead on. And I don't know, to me, it doesn't really look as good as it could. And I think most sim builders understand that. I gotta pause real quick because when I was mentioning colonial times, all that came to mind was there were no utensils in colonial times. There are no utensils at colonial times. From the movie The Cable Guy, it's actually medieval times. There were no utensils at medieval time. Jim Carrey, Matthew Broderick, anyone? Let me know in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, all the windows that I'm putting, I don't know what they're actually going to be because I'm not even touching the inside at this point. I had to use the big bowed out windows because I don't know, whenever I have seen a colonial revival, there's always some form of that kind of a window. There's not really ever a deck or whatnot with a colonial house, but there's always some sort of concrete porch, at least from what I've ever seen. But not for entertaining. This was a time period that we didn't have grills or anything like that. You would do all of your entertaining on the inside. And look at me talking about what kind of technology they had in colonial times when I already said that this is a colonial revival and it was modern day United States. So I guess I'm going for that imaginary colonial house that I thought was a thing growing up. The whole, oh, my aunt has a colonial house. It must be from colonial time. Actually, they did that. Because they said like George Washington my family. For the garden and the land itself, I want it to be low key. Well, for one, I always got to use these, the long hedgerows, but I didn't want to go overboard with flowers. But one of the main attractions in Pennsylvania was Longwood Gardens, and it's a gigantic garden of all kinds of flowers and hedges and trees and, all things that grow in a garden. Either way, I put a wall because I was to the state of mind of thinking of my aunt's house, and they had a brick wall around the back, and I don't know, it goes well with the brick house. It's a brick house. I don't like using actual floor tiles when I'm making outside pathways because it doesn't look, it's so perfect. Like, who has a completely perfect pathway? So I like to use the paint on versions because you can, add on and blend really well with the dirt, which I always like to put many layers, just like when I'm drawing a picture. You're not going to have it perfect. You're going to have some dirt. You're going to have some grass mixed up. And you really can't achieve that when you use the actual floor tiles to make outdoor pathways. I always like to use the big bushes to fill in areas because I'm planning to put trees here, and they're a great way of filling in the space beneath the tree. In the northeast of the United States, there's lots of pine trees, and I mean the pine barrens are in New Jersey after all. I always used normal kinds of trees like the oaks and mesquite in Sims builds, and I thought it would change it up, and I decided that I want to go with the evergreen route, just because Colonial Times makes me think Pennsylvania and the whole tri-state area. And don't even get me started on Doofenshmirtz trying to take over the tri-state area. If we've been down that road, we're not going down there again. Thank you, Perry the Platypus. One part of designing the outside is to make sure to switch it to night mode to see how your lights shine on the area. And oftentimes I kind of like the image that you get when it is nighttime. Also, I don't really think of anything specific when I think about outside areas. I just think chairs and flowers. Again, because all I think about are like my family's homes or going to Longwood Gardens. There's chairs. You sit because you look at flowers. That's what I think about when I think of Colonial Time. But granted, that is not at all what Colonial Times were. So, okay, from this point on, I totally sped it up completely. It took me a while to commit to the inside style. Didn't really want to go with the vampire woodwork because it's so, like, that's what I use for making palaces and really ridiculous mansions. But I couldn't help it. Making it nice and white and bright. When you look at, like, even Google images of insides of colonial revivals, they like to make it pretty bright and white and pristine. And so I just kept this throughout. It just looks cool. You'll see that I did put different kinds of walls with the wallpaper because wallpaper was a big deal also in, well, not Colonial Time, but a wallpaper. Whenever I've been in a colonial revival house or actual colonial house, like Betsy Ross's house over in Philadelphia, hardwood floors were everywhere. With, big, really beautiful hand-woven rugs. Also, tiles. Tiles in the kitchens, tiles in the bathroom. There was no linoleum or what. Well, actually, I don't even know. The only thing I know for sure were big curtains was always a thing. They usually also had like sheer blinds or something, but you really can't layer window treatments in The Sims. But really thick, long curtains, I always equate them to colonial houses. That and wall sconces. Okay, bear with me. The wall sconces I put on either side of this mirror, they look like horns to me, okay? Like, not really. If you go up close, you can tell that they're not horns. But from far away, like at a glance, they look like something that you would drink mead out of. So, like, I'm talking like Beowulf mead halls, like Herod and all that kind of stuff. But that it doesn't really look like that when I think about it. That's just the kind of thoughts I have while I'm making these builds. Whenever it comes to furniture, I always just use it throughout. Like, it just saves so much time. And also, in all these old houses that I've been working on, again, when I think about my family, it was always about having a bedroom set, having a dining room set. And it was like a big thing that, like, oh, you have a house. Let us get you a dining room set. Like, oh, like, ooh, look at that. They got a dining room set. Or anything like that. I don't understand. Like, that's totally not a thing anymore. Or is it? I don't know. I didn't really. Actually, wait, no. We do have a bedroom set. Damn it. No, I guess we do. It is still a thing. Tell me about your bedroom set. Do you have one? Or do you just have, like, random hodgepodge put together, like a bookshelf that you got in college, Does anyone still have those? I got one right behind me. But anyway, just like in my last video with the Victorian house, they didn't have TV or anything really exciting in this, my fictional colonial revival from colonial times. So they had a study, and I like to do studies, just never very scientific. It's important that you never forget that I am not a professional. Well, I'm professional, just you know what I mean. The bathroom, I did not expect to look this cool, but I just started going with the light blue, and I had no idea that the Gothic vampire bathroom set made the white and blue, so that bathroom I really like. Actually, no, I lied. I did know that you could make the vampire Victorian styled bathroom fixtures light blue and white. I just never thought to do it because I'm usually making some sort of vampiric, dark, gothic Victorian build. But yeah, they got nice colors. And I think I've well expressed that I like colors. You can't have a colonial revival without fireplaces. So if you're planning on making a colonial revival, don't forget the chimneys and fireplaces. See, I tried really hard to change it up and use a different kind of curtain, but it just stuck. Why ruin a good thing? It looked good upstairs. Let's make it look good downstairs, or the same sort of thing. And since I already have so much blue, it's got to be blue. These chairs are my favorite because they're a full set, and you got a love seat, you got a full couch, you got smaller chairs, and there are other items that I don't think I used here, but they all have the identical swatches to choose from for colors, and it makes it so easy and convenient, and you can even tell that these curtains go well with that as well. So I love having things match, which, as I will always say, anyone that builds will always run into that situation where, oh, I really like this cabinet, but why does it look different on this wall than this wall? The lighting totally glitches out, I swear. But I'm not going to complain. I love this game. It's fun. I could do so much with it, and they always add new things. I mean, can you really complain about that? I honestly don't know what the purpose is of having a gigantic dining room table is all about having family over or whatnot. But, like, they're really expensive. Like, I don't know if you've bought one. Like, I haven't bought one. We have a little dinky thing. But what do you do with it throughout the year? Like, my mom, seriously, just dusted it. We had this big oval table, and we would always have to end up putting the inserts in it to make it extra long for Thanksgiving because we would have like 12 people crammed in a tiny room. And there I go talking about family again, which I'm pretty sure for many Americans, like, you might use that table maybe 4 times, maybe 5 times, I don't know. How often do you sit at a really large table, or a large table with, if you've ever had to deal with the folded kiddie tables where all the kids would sit? Oh, and also being the teenager that would have to sit with them. Oh, family. At this point in the build, I'm starting to get really excited. There's 2 rooms left, the kitchen and the foyer. I did all my finishing touches in the other rooms, and now I have to slow down, because usually I speed up when I'm almost done and the quality suffers. Still, this has been my fastest build, it being maybe 1.5 hours total, with 45 minutes just for the outside. I really, when it comes to kitchens in older houses, I really never know what to do. I just kind of make it up. I mean, I figured if the Sims people put the refrigerator and old school looking stove, obviously they had to have something. Did they have refrigerators? Really? I really don't know my history when it comes to technology, and I really should. I freaking love it. Our world has, advanced so much. When I think about it, I remember being a teenager and being like, oh man, in the future. Because, I was really a real big fan of Back to the Future and also Bill and Ted, Excellent Adventure and all that. So I would always wonder about what would it be like in the future. And now here we are. I'm sure those of us that were fans of Back to the Future went through the whole, oh, it's 2015, there's no hoverboards. Yeah, aside from that, so much of what we have always seen in Back to the Future and any science fiction movie, unfortunately also the dystopian movies, is coming true. The future is now, thanks to science. whenever I'm decorating with clutter items or like random wall art, I'll like scroll through and I'll find things for a different room. And so you'll see me bouncing back and forth between rooms because I'll be like, oh, that's an awesome item. That would be great in the bathroom, or that'll be cool in the living room. The foyer was my last room, and as is such, whenever I do that, I always usually rush, but I always make a point of slowing down in the last room because I want to make sure they all count. I've already given you details about each one of these rooms, so I'll just let you enjoy the tour with some great YouTube-provided royalty-free music. Enjoy. Thanks for watching my video. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and if you did, please like and, give me a comment. What do you think? Do you have any experience with colonial houses, or are you a fan of colonial times? Let me know about it. Also, you might consider subscribing. I am making this an entire series. Next up is going to be a bungalow from the 1920s. I'm always active on Twitter. I also stream on Twitch as well. But until the next, have a day.